Hey everyone, tonight we're stepping into the worn shoes of someone history almost forgot to record. A girl living in a medieval English village. Not a princess in a tower, not a lady at court, just an ordinary child navigating an extraordinary life. Before we begin, take a moment to like the video if you enjoy this kind of content, and subscribe if you haven't already. Let me know in the comments where you're tuning in from and what time it is for you. Now, settle in. Let the day fade away. And let's walk together through a single day in a world that demanded everything and promised very little. The first sensation that greets our girl, let's call her Emma, isn't gentle. There's no gradual waking, no stretching in warm sunlight. Instead, there's cold. The kind that seeps through woolen blankets stuffed with straw and old cloth scraps, the kind that turns breath into visible clouds even inside the house. It's still dark outside, that deep pre-dawn darkness that medieval people knew intimately. The first cock hasn't crowed yet, but Emma's mother is already stirring, adding wood to the hearth fire that's been smoldering all night. The orange glow grows, casting dancing shadows on the wattle and daub walls. Emma shares a sleeping space with her younger brother and older sister. They're all huddled together on a straw-filled mattress that sits directly on the packed earth floor, or if the family is slightly more prosperous, on a low wooden frame that keeps the worst of the cold from seeping up from below. There are no separate rooms in this cottage. Everything happens in this single space: cooking, eating, working, sleeping, living. Against one wall, her parents sleep in their own bed. Along another wall, a cupboard holds the family's few possessions: a couple of wooden bowls, some clay pots, perhaps a treasured cooking pot made of bronze if they're fortunate. Emma knows she must rise, even though every fiber of her being wants to burrow deeper into the warmth of shared body heat. But childhood in the medieval world isn't about comfort or slow mornings. By the time a girl reaches 7 or 8 years old, she's already considered useful. Not quite an adult, but no longer coddled as a small child. She has responsibilities, and those responsibilities begin the moment she opens her eyes. She sits up, feeling the rough linen of her tunic, the same one she slept in, the same one she'll wear all day. There's no changing of clothes, no wardrobe to choose from. This tunic, reaching down to her ankles, is what she owns. It's been patched multiple times, handed down from her older sister, and before that, possibly from a cousin or neighbor. The fabric is coarse, undyed, a natural grayish-brown that doesn't show dirt easily, which is fortunate because bathing is infrequent. Maybe once a season if water can be heated and a barrel procured for the purpose. Emma wraps a simple cloth around her head, not for fashion but for warmth and to keep her hair, which she'll braid later, out of her face. Her feet find worn leather shoes, thin-soled things that have been repaired multiple times by the village cobbler. These shoes are precious. They're possibly the most valuable item she personally owns, and she treats them with the care they deserve. In winter, she might stuff them with straw for extra warmth. In summer, she'll go barefoot when possible to preserve them. But this morning, with frost likely on the ground, she needs whatever protection they can offer. Her mother hands her a wooden bowl containing pottage, that thick stew-like mixture that appears at nearly every medieval meal. This morning's version is thin, made from oats boiled in water with perhaps a bit of onion if they're lucky. It's not delicious by any measure we'd recognize today, but it's warm, it fills the stomach, and it provides the energy Emma will need for the day ahead. She eats quickly, using her fingers and a wooden spoon, washing it down with small beer, that slightly fermented drink that's safer than water from the river that runs near the village. Even children drink small beer. The alcohol content is low, just enough to kill the bacteria that makes water dangerous, but not enough to cause any real intoxication. As Emma finishes her meal, her mother begins listing the morning tasks. There's no asking, no negotiating. This is simply what must be done for the family to survive another day. The first task is water. Always water. The family uses it for everything: cooking, washing, drinking, and the supply must be constantly replenished. Emma takes 2 wooden buckets, well worn but still serviceable, and steps out into the pre-dawn cold. The village is just beginning to stir. Smoke rises from other cottages as families wake their fires. A dog barks somewhere in the distance. The church bell hasn't rung yet for the first prayers of the day, but it will soon. Emma knows the way to the village well by heart. She could walk it in complete darkness if necessary, and she has. The path is well trodden, muddy in some places, frozen in others depending on the season. Other girls and women are already at the well, some with buckets, others with clay jugs. This is women's work, this daily trek for water. Men might carry water if they're working in the fields and need it there, but the household supply falls to the women and girls. At the well, Emma waits her turn. The well is communal, shared by everyone in the village, and there's an unspoken etiquette to its use. You don't rush, but you don't dawdle either. The older women get first draw, then the younger women, then the girls. Emma lowers the bucket on its rope, feeling the weight increase as it fills, then hauls it back up. The muscles in her arms and shoulders are already well developed from this daily task. She fills both her buckets, careful not to spill any of the precious liquid, then begins the walk back. The buckets are heavy now, perhaps 20 pounds each, and she can't carry them in her hands without sloshing water everywhere. Instead, she does what she's been taught since she was small enough to help. She uses a carrying pole, a sturdy stick that rests across her shoulders, with the bucket suspended from each end. It distributes the weight more evenly, though it's still hard work. Some older girls and women have learned to carry buckets on their heads, balanced perfectly, leaving their hands free. Emma hasn't mastered this yet, but she's learning. Back at the cottage, she pours the water into large clay vessels that sit near the hearth. Her mother nods approval. One task complete, dozens more await. The chickens need tending. Emma's family is fortunate enough to own 4 hens and a rooster. These birds are kept in a small attached lean-to that connects to the main cottage. The warmth from the animals, though modest, helps keep the cottage slightly less frigid in winter. More importantly, the chickens can't easily be stolen if they're inside, and theft is always a concern in a medieval village where everyone lives so close to the edge of survival. Emma checks for eggs, finding 2 this morning. She handles them carefully, knowing each one represents food or potentially a little extra income if they can spare them to sell. The eggs go into a basket, then into the safest corner of the cottage. The chickens themselves need to be let out into the small fenced area behind the house where they can scratch and peck during the day. Emma scatters some grain for them, precious grain that the family can barely spare but must, because the chickens are an investment that pays back in eggs and occasionally in meat. Next comes the pig. Oh, the pig. Emma's family owns one, kept in a small pen behind the cottage. Pigs are possibly the most valuable animals a peasant family can own because they're efficient, they can eat almost anything, they can forage in the woods for acorns and roots, and when slaughtered, they provide an enormous amount of meat, fat, and materials. Every part of a pig gets used: the meat, the fat rendered into lard for cooking, the skin, the bones boiled for broth, even the blood mixed with oatmeal to make black pudding. But living with a pig is not romantic. The smell is overwhelming. The pen is a mixture of mud, waste, and whatever scraps get thrown in. Emma holds her breath as much as possible while dumping kitchen scraps into the pen: yesterday's vegetable peelings, a bit of spoiled grain, some water. The pig grunts enthusiastically. It's being fattened for slaughter in late autumn, and the family will live off its meat throughout the winter. By the time Emma returns to the cottage, the sun is finally rising, painting the sky in shades of pink and gold. Beautiful, but she barely notices. Beauty is a luxury when you're worried about survival. Her older sister has already begun the spinning. This is women's work that never truly ends. Every family needs cloth, for clothing, for blankets, for bandages, for trade. And cloth begins with thread, and thread begins with spinning. Emma's mother produces wool by shearing the sheep that several families share. The fleece is washed in lye, that harsh soap made from wood ash and water, then carded to align the fibers. After that comes spinning, transforming loose wool into usable thread. Emma's sister sits with a distaff, a long stick with prepared wool attached to the top. The distaff is tucked into her belt at the waist, leaving both hands free. In one hand, she holds a spindle, a short wooden stick with a small whirl at the bottom to give it weight. She draws out fibers from the distaff, twists the spindle, and watches as the twist travels up the fibers, creating thread. It's rhythmic work, almost meditative, and it can be done while walking, while talking, while supervising children. Medieval women spun constantly. When they weren't doing other tasks, they were spinning. The demand for thread was insatiable because it took approximately 3,000 meters of thread to weave just 1 square meter of cloth. Think about that for a moment. A simple tunic might require multiple meters of fabric. A blanket, even more. The hours of spinning required were staggering. Emma isn't skilled enough yet for the fine spinning, so she helps card the wool instead. She takes 2 wooden paddles covered in leather with small wire teeth, places wool between them, and drags them past each other repeatedly until the fibers align. It's tedious work, and the wool smells of lanolin and sheep, but it's necessary. Her hands will smell like sheep for the rest of the day. As the morning progresses, Emma's tasks shift to helping her mother prepare the midday meal. This is the main meal of the day, and like breakfast, it centers on pottage. But this pottage is thicker, more substantial. Into the large iron pot hanging over the fire go peas, those dried field peas that are a staple of every peasant diet. They've been soaking overnight, and now they'll boil for hours. To this, Emma's mother adds whatever vegetables they have, perhaps leeks from the garden plot next to the cottage, or turnips pulled from storage, or cabbage if it's in season. If the family is fortunate, there might be a small piece of bacon or salt pork to add flavor, but meat is rare. Most days, the pottage is entirely vegetarian, seasoned only with salt if they have it, and herbs gathered from the garden: parsley, rosemary, thyme. Emma is tasked with keeping the fire at the right level. Too hot and the pottage burns. Too cool and it won't cook properly. She adds wood carefully, learned behavior from years of watching her mother. The wood itself represents work. Someone, usually her father or brother, had to cut it, haul it, stack it, and keep it dry. Nothing in a medieval household is simple. Everything requires labor. While the pottage simmers, Emma helps with baking. The family doesn't have an oven. Very few peasant families do. Ovens require significant investment in construction and constant fuel to maintain the heat needed for baking. Instead, the lord of the manor maintains a communal oven, and peasants are required to use it for their baking, paying a fee for the privilege. This is one of the many ways lords extract value from their peasants. Emma's mother has prepared dough from rye flour mixed with a bit of barley. White bread made from wheat is for wealthy people. Peasants eat dark, heavy bread that's dense and filling. The dough has been rising overnight in a covered bowl near the hearth's warmth. Now it's formed into loaves, placed in a basket, and Emma is sent with her sister to the lord's baking house. The walk to the baking house takes Emma past other cottages, past the church with its ancient stone walls, past the lord's manor house in the distance. The village is fully awake now. Men are heading to the fields with tools over their shoulders. Women are tending gardens, hanging washing, calling to children. It's a tight-knit community because it has to be. Survival in the medieval world depends on cooperation. You need your neighbors to help plow, to share tools, to assist in emergencies, to provide labor when your own family can't manage alone. At the baking house, several other women and girls wait their turn. There's gossip here, news passed from one household to another. Who's ill, whose cow calved, what the Lord Steward said about the upcoming harvest obligations, whether the tinker will visit this month. Emma listens but doesn't contribute much. She's still young, still learning the social dynamics of village life. When their turn comes, the bread is placed in the hot oven. They'll return in a few hours to collect it, paying their fee, a portion of the bread itself or a few coins if they have them. Back at the cottage, the pottage is ready. The family gathers around the central hearth. There's no table, just the hearth itself and perhaps a couple of benches or stools. They eat from wooden bowls, using bread to sop up the thick liquid, using their fingers and simple wooden spoons. It's hot, it's filling, and it will provide energy for the afternoon's work. No one leaves anything in their bowl. Food is too precious to waste. After the meal, Emma is sent to the garden plot behind the cottage. Even small cottages have a croft, a small piece of land where families grow vegetables and keep a few animals. This land doesn't belong to the family, It's part of the manor system, but they have the right to use it as long as they fulfill their obligations to the Lord. The garden needs constant attention. Weeds must be pulled, or they'll choke out the vegetables. Emma spends an hour on her hands and knees, pulling weeds from between the cabbages, checking the leeks, examining the small herb garden where her mother grows parsley, sage, and a few other useful plants. Some of these herbs will season food. Others have medicinal uses, though medieval medicine is more hope than science. As Emma works, she can hear the village around her. The rhythmic sound of the blacksmith's hammer from the smithy. The bleating of sheep being moved from one pasture to another. Children younger than her playing some chasing game, their laughter high and clear. The church bell marking the midday prayers. Life continues in its well-worn patterns, the same today as yesterday, as it will be tomorrow. After the garden, there's mending to be done. Clothes in the medieval world are worn until they literally fall apart, and even then, the fabric is salvaged and reused. Emma's tunic has a tear near the hem where she caught it on a bramble while gathering firewood. Her mother hands her a needle, precious iron carefully stored, and thread spun by her sister. Emma's stitches are not beautiful, but they're functional. She repairs the tear, then examines her shoes. One is developing a hole in the sole. It will need to be taken to the cobbler soon, which means expense, which means the family will have to decide what to sacrifice to afford the repair. Perhaps fewer eggs will be kept for eating. Perhaps a chicken will be sold. The afternoon brings more spinning, more carding of wool. Emma's hands move automatically now, pulling fibers, smoothing them. Her mind wanders. She thinks about the upcoming village feast day, still weeks away, when there will be dancing and special food and a break from the relentless work. She thinks about the boy 2 cottages over who smiled at her at church last Sunday. She's 11 years old, still several years from marriageable age, but already aware that her future will involve becoming someone's wife, bearing children, continuing this same life in a different cottage. Medieval peasants generally marry in their late teens when they've established themselves enough to support a household. It's not the child marriages of the nobility, driven by political alliances and property transfer. For peasants, marriage is practical. You marry when you can afford it, when you have skills and resources enough to survive together. As the afternoon wears on, Emma is sent to gather firewood. This is ongoing work. The hearth fire never truly goes out, but it needs constant feeding. Emma takes a small axe, more of a hatchet really, and heads to the edge of the village where the forest begins. She's not allowed to cut living trees. Those belong to the Lord, and poaching wood can result in severe punishment. Instead, she gathers fallen branches, dead wood, anything that's already on the ground. It's harder work than it sounds. Dead wood can be heavy. It needs to be broken into manageable pieces. And there's always the fear, however irrational, of what might lurk in the forest. Wolves are rare but not unheard of. Bandits occasionally use the forest roads. Mostly though, it's just dark and easy to get turned around if you venture too far. Emma stays close to the village, within sight of the cottages, gathering what she can carry in a basket on her back. When she returns with the wood, the sun is already lowering toward the horizon. Days in the medieval world are governed by light. When it's light, you work. When darkness comes, activity largely ceases. There's no electric light, no gas lamps. Candles exist but are expensive. Peasants use rushlights when they use any artificial light at all, and rushlights are just reeds dipped in fat that burn quickly and produce minimal illumination. Most nights, once the sun sets, families simply go to bed. It's the most economical use of time and resources. But first, the evening meal. This is simpler than midday, perhaps bread and cheese if there is any, or more pottage, this time reheated from what was made earlier. Sometimes there's a bit of dried fish if the family traded for it, or if Emma's father managed to catch something in the river, though fishing rights are also controlled by the lord, and peasants can face punishment for taking fish without permission. The meal is eaten quickly, quietly. Everyone is tired. Emma's father and brother have been in the fields all day, and the work is back-breaking. Plowing, sowing, harvesting depending on the season. Maintaining the Lord's roads. Clearing forests as ordered. Cutting and hauling hay. Repairing fences. Peasant men work as hard as peasant women, just in different ways. After the evening meal, as darkness settles, the family might sit for a short while by the firelight. This is when stories get told, lessons get taught, prayers get said. Emma's mother might teach her a song, something passed down through generations. Her father might check the farming tools, sharpening a blade or repairing a handle. Her brother might carve a simple toy for their youngest sibling. These moments are rare, precious breaks in the constant work. But they don't last long. Darkness is expensive to push back, and exhaustion is powerful. One by one, the family prepares for sleep. Emma braids her hair to keep it from tangling overnight. She removes her shoes, placing them carefully where she can find them in the morning. She keeps her clothes on because the cottage will grow cold as the fire dies down. Everyone layers together on their sleeping pallets, sharing warmth, sharing body heat in a way that modern people would find claustrophobic but that medieval people considered normal and necessary. Before sleep comes, there's a prayer. Medieval peasants are deeply religious, not because they've carefully studied theology but because religion permeates every aspect of life. The church is the center of the village. The priest is one of the few educated people they'll ever encounter. Saints' days mark the passage of time. Heaven and hell feel very real when you live in a world this hard, this unpredictable. Emma whispers the prayer she's known since infancy, asking for protection through the night, for health, for a good harvest, for her family to be safe. And then she closes her eyes. The cottage is dark now except for the faint glow of the banked fire. Outside, the village is silent except for the occasional dog bark or the sound of the night watch making his rounds. Emma drifts toward sleep, her body aching pleasantly from the day's work, her stomach full enough not to ache with hunger, her mind already beginning to rehearse tomorrow's tasks because tomorrow will be much like today, and the day after that, and the day after that. This is the rhythm of medieval peasant life. There is no weekend, no vacation, no retirement. You work from the time you're old enough to be useful until you're too old or too sick to continue. For Emma, this day has been unremarkable, entirely ordinary. No one will write about it. No chronicler will record her name. She is one of thousands, millions of peasant children who lived and worked and grew up in medieval villages across Europe, living lives that were hard beyond modern comprehension but that were also, in their way, full. Full of family, full of community, full of the satisfaction that comes from completing necessary work, full of small moments of beauty like sunrise over the fields or the first warm day of spring or the taste of fresh bread or the sound of her mother singing while she spins. Emma's life is not easy, but it's hers. She knows her place in the world, knows what's expected of her, knows who she is and who she'll become. There's something almost peaceful in that certainty, even when the circumstances are harsh. As sleep takes her, Emma doesn't dream of escape or of a different life. She dreams, if she dreams at all, of the things her world offers. A full harvest, a healthy pig, a warm cottage, her family together and safe. These are the dreams of medieval peasants. Not grand, not ambitious by our standards, but profound in their simplicity. To have enough. To survive. To see another day. Modern life has given us comfort and security that would seem like magic to Emma. We have heat at the touch of a button, light that banishes darkness completely, food from around the world available anytime we want it, medicine that cures illnesses that killed half of medieval children before age 5. We've gained so much. But perhaps we've also lost something that Emma had, a deep connection to the rhythms of nature, to the passage of seasons, to the fundamental reality of what it takes to survive. She knows where her food comes from because she grows it, tends it, harvests it with her own hands. She knows the value of water because she carries it every morning. She knows the worth of cloth because she spins the thread herself. There's no judgment here, no claim that medieval life was better. It objectively wasn't. It was brutal and short and filled with suffering that we've largely eliminated. But understanding Emma's day gives us perspective on our own. When we complain about minor inconveniences, it's worth remembering that Emma would consider our worst days to be miraculous luxuries. When we feel disconnected from our world, it's worth considering that Emma never had that problem. Every moment of her day connected her to the immediate reality of survival. And when we feel overwhelmed by choices and possibilities, it's worth noting that Emma's life offered few choices, but perhaps because of that, offered a different kind of peace. Medieval village life was hard beyond imagining, but it was also human. People loved, laughed, hoped, dreamed, and found meaning within its constraints. Emma's day has ended much as it began, with cold, with darkness, with the knowledge that tomorrow will demand everything she can give. But tonight, she sleeps surrounded by her family, in a village full of people who know her name, living a life that is small in scale but enormous in its demands and its satisfactions. If you enjoyed this journey through a medieval day, please consider liking this video and subscribing to the channel. There are more stories waiting to be told, more ordinary people who deserve to be remembered, more nights ahead where we can travel together into the past. Until then, sleep well, and perhaps spare a thought for all the Emmas throughout history whose days were so much harder than ours, whose names were never recorded, but whose lives made the world we inhabit possible.